hardest time of the season to do any true analysis as a hockey fan is after week one of the season. It's a time where stats lie, the standings lie, and even your eyes can seem to be lying to you about what's really going on. So, instead of doing my normal type of video breaking down one player or team, I'm going to play a bit of a game in this one. I call it Sustainable or Not. I'll go over a handful of teams and players across the league who are off to unexpectedly hot or cold starts, and weigh in on whether I think these trends are going to extend across the season or whether they're just a flash in the pan. I will preface this by saying while I'll take a look at some numbers in here, small sample size data isn't all that useful. Stats like expected goals don't begin to have much of a predictive impact until you reach a sample size closer to at least a quarter of the season. And so while I'll point to some stats to draw out a point, I'm not expecting the majority of these numbers to stay where they are across the year. Always beware of small sample sizes. We'll start with two Atlantic Division teams that have fallen on opposite sides of their preseason expectations, the 3-0 Boston Bruins and the 0-2 Tampa Bay Lightning. As I voiced this Monday afternoon, these teams are playing as we speak, and if my theory is right, a big Tampa victory will march both of these sides back to where they were expected to be. The Bruins have had the luxury of playing both Chicago and Buffalo, two teams that look to be pretty bad this year. While the Blackhawks have shown some fighting spirit, losing all three of their games pretty narrowly, it's safe to say that Boston beating and outchancing them, as well as the lowly Sabres, isn't a sign of things to come. Their more impressive win was over Washington, where they won 3-1 with an empty netter, and got heavily outchanced for the majority of the game, riding a big Jeremy Swayman performance to victory. While I do think it's true that Boston is a level better than the truly tanking teams, I think the more real teams they play will expose the brutal depth on the roster and push them more into that deep playoff bubble in the East. Tampa was pegged by many, myself included, to win the Atlantic this year. They've responded by losing their first two games at home and being dead last in expected goals for percentage. Their two losses did come at the hands of some pretty capable teams, Ottawa and New Jersey, but the Devils game did raise some real concerns. Getting outshot 16-2 and outscored 3-0 in the first is truly awful, and even if they did attempt to crawl back later in the game, the damage was already done. Add on the fact that Vasilevsky hasn't quite looked like himself yet after being pretty limited during camp, and you can see why Tampa is slumping to start the year. But I'll still put faith in the Lightning that this is only a two-game blip. Every team has had bad games, and you can chalk this up to a veteran team taking a little bit to get fully warmed up for the season. Their top nine is one of the best in the leagues, and they've got Boston, Washington, Detroit, Columbus, Chicago, and Anaheim in the next 2 weeks. I'd be pretty surprised if we're still looking down with concern at the Lightning at the end of that stretch. Next up, we'll take a look at four high-profile rookie defensemen: Matthew Schaefer, Sam Rizal, Zeev Boyum, and Axel Sandin-Pellikka. All four are currently averaging over 20 minutes a night early on in the season, playing in top four roles on their respective teams. Matthew Schaefer is the youngest player in the NHL this season, just turning 18 in September, but it hasn't shown at all in both his play and the Islanders' trust in him. He played a whopping 26:04 against Washington in just his second ever NHL game and ran the show. His speed and skating were always his calling card, and he's shown that ever since camp begun. He leads the Islanders in time on ice, expected goals for percentage, and is even second in points with 2 in 2 games. While the Islanders are in the midst of their rebuild, their number one pick looks like an absolute budding star. Schaefer's skating acts as a huge safety net for him, allowing him to be bold and join the rush, knowing he has the ability to get back quickly and cover up any mistakes. Add on some swagger and talent with the puck, and he's already exceeding his lofty expectations. Sam Rizal got into 9 NHL games at the end of last year and played a ton. This season, he's already been given the keys as a top pair blue liner in Chicago and scored his first NHL goal against Montreal on Saturday. Now, Rizal has shown himself to be an all-action defender who skates well, moves the puck, and uses his size and mobility to defend. That being said, I do wonder if the Blackhawks are giving him a bit too much to chew right now. He struggled to control chances in these 3 games, getting caved in by Boston, Florida, and Montreal's top lines. I think Chicago would be best served reducing his role to a second pair guy, which would allow him a bit more time to make decisions with the puck, and hopefully let him develop into the top pair guy they hope for him to be. But feeding Rizal to the Wolves on the top pair every night just is not a sustainable option for his long-term success. Zeev Boyum also scored his first career goal on Saturday, and is the only one on this list with NHL playoff experience. He's already quarterbacking Minnesota's top power play unit and is a dynamo with the puck in the offensive zone. The Wild have been really sheltering his minutes so far in his short NHL career, and by the eye test they're right to do so. The defending pace is really tough to adapt to in the NHL, and Boyum as a smaller defender is having to learn on the fly how to defend against bigger, stronger opponents than he saw in college, and adapt to having less time with the puck on his stick. The Wild are in a good spot to let their young star grow into an NHL role, and if he can roll on the power play while starting to hold his own defensively at even strength, it'll be a huge success. I'd say continuing down this path should be sustainable for Zeev. Lastly, Axel Sandin-Pellikka hasn't made the highlight reels in the NHL like the first three names quite yet, but he's quietly formed a really effective pair alongside fellow Swedes Simon Edvinsson on Detroit's second pair. While I doubt the two will end up as a top 5 D pair by expected goals percentage, as they currently are, ASP has looked calm and measured with the puck, and Edvinsson's shutdown ability is a great fit to nurture the inner rookie blue liner. It's kind of against the rules of the video, but I'm sitting on the fence just to see how sustainable this is. It's looked good in 2 games so far, but it is a long season. Red Wings fans will have to hope ASP can hold at the NHL level, or else they'll be forced to have to watch Travis Hamonic defend. Lastly, we'll take a look at Vegas' scorching hot top 6, with Jack Eichel, Mark Stone, and Pavel Dorofeev dominating the scoring charts. There's basically no point at all in looking at any stats here, since the sample size on anything power play related thus far is just so small and skewed that it legitimately means nothing. But Dorofeev has been blasting home PPGs in every game this season, while Eichel, Stone, and to a lesser extent Marner and Barbashev have been feasting on the scoring tables. It's pretty easy to say this isn't 100% sustainable. No team is going to score this much with their top 6 and dominate the scoring charts. But I've really liked what I've seen from Vegas. They've generated a ton of offense, and I think that they've got so much talent that's just gelling well together. And now, they're also not going to face goalies that just gift them free goals every week like Alex Nedeljkovic. And they're probably going to want to avoid going to overtime every game. But I wouldn't be surprised if this ends up looking like a top 3 offense all season. So, what do you think? Which of these early trends do you think will continue throughout the rest of the season, and which do you think are just a small sample size blip? Let me know in the comments below.